Welcome back to Buffalo Live. We are doing my weekly NFL ranking. Alright, it's time to review my top quarterback rankings for this week. Rankings are always based on performance by stats, by how well they perform, completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns scored that they throw in the game, just to let you know what this is based off, and also if the team won. Obviously, there are some of these that you might hear that the team lost, but that means that quarterback outperformed any other quarterback that would have performed from a winning team. So number one is Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat the Tennessee Titans 20-17 in overtime. Mahomes went 43 of 68 for 446 yards and one touchdown in that game against the Tennessee Titans. At number two, I have Tua Tagovailoa, went 21 of 30, 302 yards and three touchdowns. After he came back from injury, he's been playing really, really good. But right now, I am not going to say he's a top 10 quarterback. That's the one thing I'm not going to say just yet. I don't think Tua is a top 10 quarterback yet in this league. Number three, I have Kirk Cousins. He's leading the Minnesota Vikings to be a 7-1 team. Great for him. He went 22 of 40 and 265 yards and two touchdowns in the win against the Commanders on Sunday. Geno Smith. It feels like every week Geno Smith is in my rankings. If you follow me on Twitter, it's at Buffalo Live Pod. That's my Twitter handle. Every week I come out with these rankings, and now because I have my podcast, I'm able to announce these through my podcast, and also you can see them on Twitter at Buffalo Live Pod. I mean, if you go through all my rankings, he's probably in at least 6 of them because he has played almost MVP caliber this season. So he went 26 of 34, 275 yards, and two touchdowns in their win. The Seahawks, I forget who they played over the weekend. Jalen Hurts, number 5, he's also been in almost every one of my rankings this year. He's played really well this season. I mean, MVP caliber, definitely, but right now, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen lead my MVP race. That might come later on as the season goes forward and this podcast goes forward. Now let's head into my top rushing. This one was quite interesting because when you look at the stats, a lot of these stats were quite similar. There was a lot of players that balled out, and there's one non-running back in this rankings. You will see it, you will hear it as I announce them 1 through 5. Number 1 was Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. He had 22 carries for 153 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Yes, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, you do 4 rushing touchdowns, that's definitely going to give you the number 1 spot. I mean, and with 153 yards and 22 carries against a really a really bad Panthers defense, which a lot of us were expecting them to be good this year, but apparently not. Number 2 is Derrick Henry. He went 17 carries, 150 yards, and 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. He started the season very slow after getting injured last year, but obviously now playing at Derrick Henry's level. And if he plays like this, he's probably going to be in my rankings every week for the next 10, 11 weeks now left in the season. Number 4 is the rookie Dameon Pierce. He went 27 carries, 139 yards. He's been in quite a few of my rankings as well. He had that dominant game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And finally, the non-running back in this category is Justin Fields. He had 15 carries, 178 yards, and 1 touchdown. All of that was on the ground. 15 carries on the ground for Justin Fields. That feels like his college days at Ohio State, which definitely fits the scheme that they want to play in Chicago. I mean, he's comfortable in that and just keep doing what he's doing. Finally, for the player rankings is my top 5 wide receivers or receiving performances of this week. 2 tight ends made the top 5, including, starting with number 1, Tyreek Hill. He's been having a really good season. I mean, a lot of people probably thought he was going to drop off after going to Miami, but he's been having a strong season for the Miami Dolphins. He's 7 receptions, 143 yards, 1 touchdown. Davante Adams is number 2, 10, 146, 2 touchdowns. Number 3 is Justin Jefferson, 7 catches, 115, 1 touchdown. Number 4, Dallas Goedert, 100 yards, 1 touchdown. And Travis Kelce rounds out the top 5, 10 catches and 106 yards. Now time to reveal my top power rankings, top 3 for the AFC and the NFC. These are not based on records. These are based off their performance and how they've been performing, scheduling, everything that normally would complete a power ranking. Performance, record, just a little bit implicates this, but really overall, how is the team performing on a week-to-week basis, and have they shown they can be a top 3 team in each conference? That's what these power rankings are on. Starting in the AFC, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they are now the top team in the AFC. The Bills have been struggling, and the Chiefs have been balling after that loss to the Bills in Week 6. The Baltimore Ravens go into number 2 in my power rankings. Again, the Ravens have been showing in the last few weeks that they can be a top tier team and compete with everyone else in the National Football League and obviously in the AFC. They are going to be a sneaky team in the playoffs when they get there. And number 3 is my Buffalo Bills. I mean, Bills Mafia is still waiting on the update for Josh Allen, but the Bills have not been playing well the last 2 weeks. I have dropped them because of that. And right now, I mean, this is to not be their toughest part of their schedule, but this is turning out to be maybe their toughest portion of their schedule. And the final part of my rankings is going to be the NFC. And let's get going, right? Number 1 is the Minnesota Vikings. They are 7-1. Obviously, I mean, you're like, where are the undefeated? Why aren't the undefeated Eagles in there? I'm going to get to that in a second. But the Vikings have been playing like they are the best team in the NFC. They did lose to those Eagles, as explained before. Number 2 is the Dallas Cowboys. They were obviously on a bye week this week, but I mean, the way they played against those Chicago Bears really influenced me to keep them in my top 3 for this week. And number 3 is the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, the Eagles did not make my top 3. I'm going to tell you why. Their strength of schedule. The Eagles have one of the easier schedules this year, and that's why they're 8-0 right now, because they have one of the softest schedules in the entire National Football League. That's probably false, but they don't have a good strength of schedule, and that's why they're not in my top 3. Say if I did a top 5, they're number 4. I am not having them in my top 5, not my top 3 for that reason. And that concludes today's podcast.